The United States and Nigeria say they've killed a top leader in the Islamic State militant group. Abu-Bilal al Minuki was reportedly killed in a joint mission near Nigeria. The US military released this footage of the operation. Al Minuki was said to be the terror group's second in command worldwide. The US is supporting Nigerian troops in their fight against militants. Violence by the Islamic State is surging in Africa, according to a new report by a UN-backed global monitor. Chris Ogunmodede is a visiting fellow at the German Marshall Fund of the United States. He analyses African politics and security with a focus on West Africa. Chris, how significant is this reported killing for the Islamic State's leadership structure?
Well, it's certainly a significant strike in the sense that the United States now has a partnership or a more robust partnership with the Nigerian government that has struggled to put a lid on the expansion of ISWAP and many other factions of the so-called Boko Haram, that they have been causing so much more damage than the supposed decline of successive Nigerian governments have suggested. So the fact that this announced partnership has struck at and succeeded actually at neutralizing a significant, what is said to be a high-ranking member of the ISWAP faction is big news. What that means in the long term is a lot less clear, but it's certainly an operational success. You can say that for sure.
And if confirmed, would his death significantly weaken IS operations?
It can certainly cause a sort of fracture in their ranks, at least in terms of the faction that he leads. It can create a lot more confusion. It can create a power struggle. It can create lots of other developments that the Nigerian government can take advantage of. But in terms of stemming the broader-based jihadist incursion in the northeast region, that will actually require a bit more strategic thinking than the Nigerian government has demonstrated capacity to do in the last, I'd say, the entirety of the conflict dating back to 2009, but certainly in the last couple of years.
Chris, around 90% of IS attacks take place in sub-Saharan Africa. Why has the group shifted its centre of gravity to the region?
The main reason is the fact that it has either been territorially defeated in other parts of the world, most specifically in West Asia. It's either been defeated or it has been significantly downgraded, and it has had to sort of recalibrate itself elsewhere. And in Nigeria and the broader West Africa region has been seen as a very significant place where groups like it can actually spread in an area that's fertile really for them, and they have gained. They've had a number of successes in Nigeria and the broader West Africa region. So Nigeria is seen as a good place for them to sort of regroup and demonstrate new capabilities that they have gained, and that's very much what they've been projecting in the last couple of years.
But tell me, don't such high-profile killings risk triggering retaliatory attacks?
Possibly, but that often depends on what their capabilities are at the moment of when they might decide to retaliate. Because it's one thing for the ISWAP to determine, oh, we're going to strike back at this or that target. But as I say, the targeting successfully of such high-profile targets creates a lot of confusion in their ranks. It makes them very paranoid about what's next. It makes them suspect one another. It makes them turn on each other. It makes them, want to fall back a little bit to try to ascertain what's going on. So that can also open up opportunities for the Nigerian government forces and even other groups that may not necessarily be aligned with the Nigerian government, but might see ISWAP as their rival. So it's not inherent that it will create a retaliatory effect, but it certainly doesn't eliminate the threat of ISWAP, which I think for people who live in the area and even the Nigerian government forces, that should be their long-term thinking, that they may not retaliate in the conventional sense, but their full capabilities have not been completely eradicated. So what could happen next?
Just briefly, this was a joint US-Nigerian operation. What does that tell us about evolving military cooperation in the region?
Well, the U.S. and Nigerian government say it was a joint operation, but the extent to which that is the case is unclear because they haven't been very forthcoming about the details of the operation, much like they were less than forthcoming of the operations in December 2025 in Sokoto in northwest Nigeria. So one can only glean from public statements that have been put out and I suppose further investigative reports that may come out. As of this moment, we do know that about between 100 to 200 U.S. forces were deployed to Bauchi earlier this year. But what they're actually there to do and the details of their partnership with the Nigerian forces, we simply don't know. So again, it depends on how much more both sides are willing to divulge about this operation, which I suspect won't be a whole lot because there's just not the precedent for them doing so.
Chris Ogunmodede, thank you very much for your analysis. Great talking to you.
Thank you very much.
For more on this, let's bring in DW's Lagos Bureau Chief Amaka Okoye. Hello, Amaka. Nice to see you. What more can you tell us about this operation and the reported killing of Abu-Bilal al Minuki?
Yes, indeed. I think that this is one of the most significant things that we heard today that happened, this collaboration between the U.S. and obviously Nigerian military being able to take out Abu-Bilal al Minuki, as you mentioned there, who is the second in command globally for ISIS group. This operation obviously, like I said, is a collaboration between U.S. and Nigeria, and they said it started off just past midnight on Saturday. But what is most interesting is maybe if we talk about who this man is himself. He is one that, I mean, he's been under the radar and they've been surveilling him and trailing him for a bit, according to what we now know. And he is also, only 3 years ago, I believe Washington did declare him as a specially designated global terrorist. So it tells you on the scale at which he operates. And beyond that also, our foreign ministry today also released in their statement and said, well, something I think that it might be interesting also just to give us a sense of who this man was, that he was responsible for some of the recent attacks that we've seen in military bases recently in the Northeast. If you remember, Eddie, we've had military bases being attacked and some of the finest soldiers being killed, including senior officers, you know, one of which was even, or two of them were Brigadier General. We don't know if it is that same attack, but this is what, you know, the foreign minister has said, attributing that this is the guy who was behind these attacks on military bases. So it tells you, so if indeed he's out, then it's a big, high-ranking target, if we like, Eddie.
Right. But, you know, Amaka, I'm a bit confused, and I'm sure you know why. Because back in 2024, Nigerian sources claimed he was killed. So what's going on?
You're right in that confusion, and you can be sure Nigerians are already talking. And as a result, just some hours ago, the special advisor to Mr. President on information and strategy did come out to say, yes, indeed, in 2024, security personnel, military, they listed his name as one of those that was taken and was killed among other terrorists. But they can now confirm that that was a mistake. It was a case of mistaken identity, you know, or misattribution. You know, in the fog of all the sustained counter-insurgency operations, these things could happen. However, he added now that they are very, very certain that this operation is 100%. In fact, he said in their words, in the words of the military officers, officials, obviously, that they are 100% sure that Abu al Minuki has been taken out. They are certain this is precision. They have right precision. He's the right target, and they have the correct intelligence this time around. So there is no shadow of that, Eddie, if we take what they have told us.
Okay, I guess only time will tell. But hey, how is this growing military cooperation between Nigeria and the U.S. being received domestically?
I think think you know that previously there's been some criticism, especially after the Sokoto attack happened, where Nigerians were asking, but who was taken out, who was killed? We didn't see any sort of evidence. And the conversation at the time was that these are really top and high-level kind of operations, and not so much will be put out there in the public. But there was also a lot of, conversations, also Nigerians saying, of course, we want, U.S. to come and help us take out these terrorists. And if you listen to the conversation, it was headed towards that direction. I would say that this particular one, again, there are people who are saying, well, this is a positive, if we put it in that line. At least we can see some sort of result in this collaboration between the U.S. and Nigeria, and hoping that this is going to be consolidated and moving forward. At the end of the day, there will be significant reduction and taking out of terrorists in different parts of the country, Eddie.
Right. Amaka, just hold on for a bit, because we're going to hear from some Nigerians inside Lagos on the matter.
To me, I want more of such strikes, because we've been fighting this terrorism without fighting terrorism.
The terrorist issue has become something else. But if U.S. can help us to eliminate all these things, I see nothing bad there. I think it's a very good information, and I pray that God will help them to succeed in their effort to make sure that peace return to this country.
Donald Trump is doing his best to make sure that there is protection of life and property in anywhere anyone is living. I think he's doing his best. We should appreciate it and encourage more of that.
Amaka, back to you. Overall, sounds like positive reactions on the ground. What does all this tell us about President Tinubu's security strategy?
I think for the president, this is one opportunity for him to tick a goal or a positive on his scorecard in terms of security in this collaboration with the U.S., seeing that this strategy is yielding results and being able to say that, the Nigerian military is working tirelessly, obviously, and working in collaboration with the U.S., but given the right intelligence. I mean, elections are also coming close, and typically what we see in Nigeria is that as election is getting closer, there are a lot of attacks, because people seem to say that politicians will move their attention, obviously, into politicking, and then insecurity will continue to grow. But this, for him, will be a place where he can say, well, in spite of the politics, he is still firm on his word and in his promise to make sure that insecurity is a thing of the past. But this is only just two results, if we can say, that we have seen. There are still, obviously, a case of insecurity around Nigeria in different parts of the country. So it is left for us to see whether this strategy is going to work or is going to amplify the success of the Nigerian military, obviously, in trying to fight terrorism around the country and also around the Sahel and the Lake Chad Basin, as you do know, Eddie.
Right. Good point to wrap that up. DW's Lagos Bureau Chief Amaka Okoye. Thank you.